You don't need to measure yourself to anyone else. People do things differently. There isn't a right way to be a mom. You don't need to have mommy guilt. Like, you do your best and you figure it out. And parenting looks different to different people, and you raise your kids the best way you know how to, but you also learn.
Hello and welcome to About Time, the show where we have long overdue conversations about the journey of women in sports. I'm Marke Freeman, athlete, author, fan of sports, and an even bigger fan of the women who are changing them. In today's episode, we'll talk about the beauty and the hardships of motherhood, coaching, and how to balance both. There is no one better to speak on this topic than the legendary coach Adia Barnes herself. Not only has she led the University of Arizona women's basketball team to unprecedented heights, including a historic NCAA championship appearance, she has also been an outspoken advocate for women, especially mothers in the world of sports. Please help me welcome Coach Barnes. This interview is brought to you by We Coach. Prior to Title IX, over 90% of women collegiate sports teams were coached by women. Today, over 50 years later, that number has decreased to 41%. That's why We Coach launched Move the Numbers to help change the landscape for women coaches and the student athletes they lead. We Coach is a one-of-a-kind nonprofit membership organization dedicated to recruiting, advancing, and retaining women coaches in all sports and levels through year-round professional growth and leadership development programs. We Coach fosters a diverse and inclusive community of over 10,000 coaching leaders who inspire young women to follow in their footsteps. If she can see her, she can be her. Together, we move the numbers to support and increase women in coaching. We teach, we inspire, we motivate, we lead, we coach. Visit our website at wecoachsports.org. That's wecoachsports.org.
Hi, my name is Coach Barnes, and it's about time we talk about women. All the things we go through, all the things we juggle, and how we are superwomen.
Well, first off, we got to talk about where your journey began at Arizona, because it started far before coaching, right? I mean, let's go ahead and throw it out there. We're going to get to some stats at some point as well, but you were a phenomenal player. You graduated in the class of 98 from the University of Arizona, right? Pac-10. I'm sorry about that. Sorry.
I'm always
just stating facts. You look great. Pac-10 Player of the Year, All-American, and you led Arizona. You helped lead Arizona to their first ever appearance in the Sweet 16. Now, as the head of the program, right? In the first 3 years, you have led this program to a top 15. You won the WNIT, and you made an appearance in the national championship game. What does it mean to revive this program back into what you knew it could be?
Well, it means a lot, because I remember when I first started coaching and I was at Washington, when Neighbors, our mutual friend, Coach Mike Neighbors, he's now the coach at Arkansas, as you know, he would always talk about Arizona. And it was like, when you talked about Arizona, it was like, you're going to win, because Arizona was always the bottom of the Pac-12.
Uh-huh.
I used to they were like, we were good when I played. Like, now it's like, just the program had been down for a while. So if you would have asked me at the end of my playing career, if you would have said, are you going to coach? I would have said, heck no. When I was playing, Joan had offered me the job a couple times, and I was like, I'm playing. I'm taking naps every day. I'm making it. I'm kicking it. Like, I don't want to be a coach. And then, like, as you get like towards the end of your career, you're kind of like, well, what have I done? Like, I've been good at basketball for a while. You know, I've played. And then, like, I started getting some broadcasting, but that wasn't like a passion. And so you're at this like pivotal like crossroads where you're like, okay, well, my passion is basketball. This is what it's exposed and given me. I've traveled the world. I've done all these things, but then you really haven't worked, and like working is different. And so I knew I was going to plant my like seed in Seattle and stay in Seattle. I had lived out of a suitcase for years. I mean, that's like 13 years at that point, living out of a suitcase. And or at that point, it had been like, I don't know, like 9 years. Okay. I don't want to move again. So I was going to move to Seattle. I had been there for a while at this point, and I had a foundation. I had relationships. I was doing some stuff with the Storm. So I was like, I want to be here. Well, Kevin McGuff got the Washington job. I didn't know McGuff, but McGuff ended up calling me, and I didn't know if I wanted to coach. I just retired from playing. So like I had a little bit of money saved, not a lot. You know, we don't make a lot. And then I was like, but enough to just be comfortable, kind of figure out what I want to do. And I said, yeah, I'm going to coach. I didn't even know how much money I've made. I didn't even ask that. I remember now. I'm like, I should ask. But yeah, I didn't know, I didn't care. I just wanted to see if I liked it. And I started it and I loved it. I loved the mentoring, I loved the teaching, I loved basketball, and I was still able to do some broadcasting at the time. So that's kind of how it started, because I was like, I need that backup plan in case I don't like coaching.
Right.
And I fell in love. And then I just I really liked my connection. I liked being around the team. I liked working out with them. This was like I had just retired, but I was like 32. And so that's kind of how it started. And I've been coaching since then. That's like, yeah, that's a while ago. Yeah, 2000. That would have been like 11. Yeah, because I was at Washington 5 years. Crazy, huh?
There are a lot of people in the space of sports who don't believe in hiring women, whether it's athletic directors, managers of all levels. They just feel like sometimes because of the responsibility that women could have as wives, as mothers, that could conflict with the role and responsibilities that they may have on the staff or within the program. As a wife, as a mother, as a woman, and as a boss, what do you have to say to the people that share these thoughts or these ideas?
I mean, you're getting a valuable person. Like you're getting with someone way better. So I'm not saying that to be like rude. What I'm saying is, okay, it is very hard. It is hard. I look at some aspects of juggling a lot, stuff like that, but it's hard regardless. I think that I'm better now, as a mom than I was before. Like I'm a better coach, I'm a better leader, I'm a better person. I think all those things. So I think that what I'm able to give is more valuable than what you don't have, like, or what you lose as me being a woman versus a man. Does that make sense? Now, sometimes I have to be honest as a woman. Sometimes I'm like, dang, if I was a guy, it'd be way easier because I'm doing the count. So the time when they're small is a little bit more taken away, but the things that I have and the things I can give are more valuable than what is taken from my time. Because I think that for me personally, I love being a mom. It's very hard. It's not. I see why women don't do it. I totally do. Before I did not. But I think that what you do is you just have a village around you. And I know that's like cliche, but like you have friends, you pay for help, you may miss a couple things, but then you make it up another way. So I think I'm better. But do I have as much time as a man to just spend all day, every day, just on film? No, I don't. And so sometimes as a woman, sometimes I'm like, well, he just got a wife now. That's easier for him. But the thing that I think that you just learn as a woman, which I think where we're so much more resilient, I think do a better job overall, is because you just learn how to like do more with less. So I may sleep, this guy may sleep 10 hours a day, but probably not, because he probably goes and drinks with his buddies. But like I may be put to sleep, but then I feel like you're more balanced and you can multitask more. So then when your kid gets older, it's like nothing. So what was stress a normal guy out, because guys can't multitask anyway. But what stresses a normal guy out is like nothing to me, because I do that. I do 15 jobs anyway. But I don't think it takes away from me as a coach. Like sometimes at times as a woman, you do feel that way. I'm like, dang, if I had my wife at home cleaning the house and all this, I wouldn't have to do that. Sometimes you do feel that way. But then the things I'm able to role model, I'm able to be, like all those things, I think it outweighs what I don't bring.
No, so well said.
Well, and I didn't even think, like when you said that, it was funny. When you were saying that, I didn't even think nowadays that people think about not hiring women. Like I just thought like, well, now like I thought that's not like a thing as much now, but I could see honestly, if I'm in the middle of like the prime of my career, which I hopefully am right now, I don't know if I'm going to have 4 more kids. I mean, I don't know if I'd want to hire me, because like that would just be really hard. So that's hard. And no one's going to ask you how many more kids you're going to have. But like if I'm an administrator, I don't know, like if I'm going to have 6 kids, that would probably be really hard. So but I think when you're a woman that's focused, you're competitive. I'm not like, it's like, I'm going to do it. I might have 6 nannies if I could afford them. I may be working to just paying for nannies, but like I'm the type, I'm never going to let what I have affect my job. And so like, I'm going to do it. Do you know what I mean? Because I never want to be that woman that like takes 3 months off. Like no one gets 3 months off. So I was on Zoom calls after 4 days after C-section. So like, like I had a surgery. I had just like a minor complication for a pregnancy. So I had a procedure done like a week ago, and I did a Zoom call the next day. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't say I had this thing. I did a Zoom call, but I'm not going to let it phase my job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to figure it out. But I think like a lot of women can't do that. I think when you're an athlete and you're like, I think it's different people. You're built different ways. I'm not going to sit out 3 months. Now, some women probably would, but then I don't think they could be at this level probably because there isn't going to be a balance. So it's like what you're choosing to do. But I'm willing to do that. I might be a little pain, but I'm not going to let you know it. I'm just going to be on the Zoom, like fine, and do it. So I'm never going to let my motherhood or my personal life affect my professional life.
You just said it. Mothers with careers are just built different. And that's true. Like motherhood never stops. I mean, I can't imagine. I know prior to starting this conversation, you were like, hold on, let me make sure the door is shut before some of my kids come rushing in. Motherhood never ends. So for you, with all the responsibilities you have, all the many hats that you wear, Adia, how do you manage that demanding load? How do you manage that mentally? And how do you manage that load physically?
You just do it. Like, I think that's what I'm saying. When you're an athlete, I think one of it's like how you're built. And I think that's for a lot of us. And I hate to say that. Like, an example is I look at my sister. My sister's brilliant. She's really smart. But like, she wouldn't be able to do the stuff I did because she'd be stressed out. But she also didn't play sports at a high level. To have the resiliency as I do. I look at my friends, and some are some bad, like professional, and they could do it. But there are some of my friends that it's not the way they're wired. It's like when I look at like Dawn, I look at Sue Bird, I look at like my professional friends, like I feel like you're wired a certain way that you're so competitive and you're so driven. It's like, it could be a coach, it could be a doctor, like we're going to be successful because we believe in it. We're resourceful. So I think it's kind of the way you are, and it's not for everybody. And like, that's okay. But for me, it's like, you just figure it out. Like I wish let me show you the sample. I'm going to show you this real quick. So this is like color coded, and this is nothing because we just started, but this is like my weekly schedule. Okay. Wow. If you look on it, it's like Adia, pick up kid, like drop them off, salvo come. Like this is a pain in my butt. Like men don't do this.
Well, shout out to you for the coordination and the organization. Shout out to you for the time it took just to create the time to do those things. But how much of like all of this organization, the energy and your ability to do in the fact that you are built like that comes from your playing career?
A lot comes from my playing career. I think the resiliency, the acceptance of you need to get better, the constructive criticism, the self-awareness, the self-evaluation, toughness. I mean, it comes from, I think, playing. But I also think, I don't know, I think a lot of it comes innately too, because like I'm competitive. So it could have been like, for me, playing, it could have been medical school, it could have been law school. I don't know. That's kind of the way I am. And sometimes I think I'm like, where did I get that from? But my mom was pretty competitive. My dad was a pro football player. I think you just kind of have it. And how I can, like, people are like that or not. Kelsey Plum is like that. Like she's a meth. Like she's not like a dog. And I think it's like the mentality. So if she wasn't playing basketball, she would be like the best doctor. She would maybe not be the smartest, maybe not be, but she's going to figure out and be the best. I think it's just the mentality and how you're wired and what you're willing to do. So this is hard, but it ain't that hard. Like it's hard. It takes a few hours, but I'm going to do it and do it right. And it's going to be okay. And you figure it out. Then you put good people around you. So like the Dobo's great. She's like the best. She's new, like 2 or 3 months, the best one I ever had. And like I couldn't do half the stuff without her. So you put this good village around you, and you figure it out so you can do your job, and you can do your job at a high level well. Because if you don't win, you're gonna get fired. So you just, and I don't think like that every day, but that's the reality of our job. Just like if you're a player, you don't play well, you don't perform, you're gonna get cut. And I think that for me, that's not scary, because if I got fired or cut, I'm gonna go get another job, and it might be even better. Like it doesn't faze me. Like I'll probably get fired one day. Every coach says I'll probably move on before you fire me because I'm gonna figure out something else. Like you're not scared of that stuff.
It's who you are and not what you are.
Yeah, it's like who you are, and you figure it out. Like it's all hard, but to me, I've learned how to love the hard stuff.
That's a tweetable right there, coach.
Yeah,
That's a tweetable.
And for me, it's hard. Like everything's hard. Like being good's hard. Like making money's hard. Like winning's hard. But it's like that's what you're striving for. That's like drives me.
Embracing those challenges. I can see how so much of that can come from sports, but also just innately being able to take on those challenges as well. And you've been very successful because of who you are, what you are, and how you're built. Oh yeah. Who is this? Is this Mateo? What's up, Mateo? How are you? Welcome to About Time, man. We're having great conversations with mommy right now.
We're having great conversations with mommy and going. He's trying to grab my phone. Okay, bye. I told you.
This is motherhood at its finest. It never ends.
Yeah, no, but back in COVID, you'd be kicking them on the side. You'd be like, because they couldn't come in. Remember, pre-COVID, you'd be like stiff arming them on the side, and they'd be like, I told you to come in because he comes with the phone.
See you, buddy.
Okay.
You've had a ton of success along with motherhood and the space of basketball, right? And I want to talk about a few of the highlights from the NCAA tournament back in 2021. A lot of highlights in terms of play, big play, Final Four, championship game. But one highlight that I will never forget was you pumping breast milk at halftime of the championship game.
But that is supposed to be like, that was like, so that was private. You know that.
Yeah.
Really upset about that, but I ended up helping people, so then I was okay. I was really upset.
Well, first off, I want to take my hat off to you and just commend you because I feel like it really, really encompasses who you are as a woman, who you are as a mom, who you are as a coach, who you are as a boss. Like you just really stood tall in that space, and I feel like you inspired so many women who also have careers, but motherhood is still a priority. How do we normalize motherhood in the sports industry?
Well, I think that the first thing is, so you have to support women. That's the first thing. Mm-hmm. So are hired, like you said, and they're not giving opportunities because it's like, but then a lot of women aren't going after stuff. So like I hear women all the time say like, oh, I want to have kids one day. I want to do this. I'm afraid to go after this. And it's like, okay, like, well, okay, that's you. I don't know. But it's like, you're already like afraid to take the next step, and you're thinking about things you're not even married like yet. Like, yeah, low, you haven't married yet. No, first, don't worry about that. No, but like, it's like thinking all these things before. So I'm not like that. It wasn't like I thought about that. Now, for me, if you looked at back, COVID had a baby. Like I got pregnant right before COVID hit, and so I was like incognito. I was hiding, and so COVID hit for me. It was like it was like I did not want COVID because COVID was devastating for this country. But like for me personally, it was a way for me to go hide. So for me personally, and for my situation, it was a great thing, like timing wise, and a great thing because I was able to go home and nobody knew pregnancy because I was going through contract negotiation. I was not sure if I would maintain the baby because I was like 40-something years old. And like for me personally, I was hiding. So if you looked at all my Zooms back then, they were all like this. My face was getting a little chubbier, but everybody just thought I was eating a ton in COVID like everybody was. And so I like 7 months. And so, but I guess look back, the fact that like I had to hide it is sad. The fact that I was like, I'm not telling anybody I'm pregnant. The fact that I went through that, that's like that's not right. So that's a whole nother thing. But I think looking back at like the bubble, like there's no support for women. Like we are women's basketball and there's no support for women. So I'll give you the example, which I advocated for later. Like catching flights, there's a certain amount of people on your flight. Well, like kids they don't count and they can't count. So here's an example. If I had an infant, she doesn't count her per ticket because she goes on your lap. Every other night. Well, in the NCAA, she's a counted person.
Oh, wow.
See, so if your party only has 30, you can't take people. Like you couldn't take her. And so I remember at first, like she couldn't be in the bubble because she would compromise the bubble. And I'm like, I am her bubble because she's on with me. So like I had to kind of say for that. And my thing was, well, like I'm not going to coach then because like I'm not leaving her. So I don't know. So we figured out that our school was really supportive, but I didn't realize there was no support because I was a head coach. So I could like decide to bring her.
Yeah.
But I was an assistant coach, like asking. So I didn't realize it was such a thing because I hadn't been in that situation. So I think but I think about me like during the Final Four, during the championship run, I was standing half the time next to trash cans and pumping because that was the only outlet. But for me, it was just like, you do what you got to do. Like, I wasn't going to sit there and tweet about it. And looking back, I would have done it differently, but I didn't want to bring attention to it because my thing is that I'm going to do it. You're not going to know how I do it. And I'm going to walk out like I didn't do it. So it was but that's sad. So yeah, like, I'm going to go, if I have to go stand in the hallway near the security guard, I'm just going to do it because that's what I have to do. But I wouldn't talk about it. I wouldn't tell anybody. I probably wouldn't even tell my team. Like, it's just like, and then I would walk in like I never did it. So that's what we do. And I think that I was upset because I was so stressed. The timing was hard during the championship game. And I was stressed. So I get to the gym. Usually I'd be able to like pump real quick because then I could last a couple hours and like be okay. Well, because I had to go into media, the timing was, I had more obligations, but I was so stressed. I was like, oh, I will need to pump because there's no way I'm going to produce any milk because this is stressful. I had never been in that kind of stress. And so in the game, I was like feeling uncomfortable. So I was like feeling my shirt, like my boobs are like, you get bored, breastfed. And I felt like my boobs growing. They probably looked like this, or they felt like they looked like that. And I was like, I do not want to have like wet on my shirt in front of like, but me, or purely like I was scared. So I was just going to run to the locker room and just relieve myself a little bit. Like, it was just like, okay, you got to be okay. I don't want to be thinking about that. And I just felt that a couple minutes. I felt discomfort. So I snuck and did it for a couple minutes, but I would have never told anybody. So what happened was I talked to the team and I was kind of later coming out because after they left, I had to like get myself together after. And then I was rushing because it was like a 1.5-minute walk. And like, I think Holly was going to talk to me and someone said like, she just got done pumping. So it got out. I would have never said that. If you would have asked me about it as media after, I'd be like, oh, I was using the bathroom. I would have never told anybody.
Wow.
I wouldn't want anybody to know what I do because I'm just going to do it and be fine.
And Coach, yeah, I think that's also the issue, right? The fact that you had to keep it so close, the fact that you felt like you couldn't tell anyone because that could interfere with your opportunities to get a job. It could interfere with how people see you, your ability to do your job well, right? Or it could just become a distraction. Some people never want a distraction. Yeah,
that's what I never wanted. So I would have never, because if you look back, I was like, I did that 20 times. But I hadn't really done that because I used to do it before the game. But I would have thought to myself, yeah, I did that every time in secret before the game. But just because this game and the timing of it, I was never by myself long enough. But for me, it wasn't a thing. But no one ever did that. There was plenty of times I probably had milk all over my shirt walking out to coach games. We were wearing our casual stuff. Because thank God for COVID. Because if it wasn't been COVID, you would have been seeing milk stains all over. But casual stuff. If I had regular clothes on, it would have been harder. So for me, it was like, thank God that we can wear casual stuff, because I was like usually had like the breast stuff under, but like I would never tell anybody that. But it is sad when you think about like I hid so much,
something men would never have to think about.
They would, and they're able to do that. They wouldn't be able to be engorged in a game. They wouldn't be able to like it's just they wouldn't be able to do that. Like they would not have their periods and coach. Like it's just they're not strong enough to do it.
And I mean, Mateo was floating around in the background, and I mean, you didn't miss a beat. Like your ability to just stay focused, but also
I couldn't do that.
You gave him a look though. I got that look from my mama a couple of times. I saw the look.
If you don't read there,
no doubt. But during that same week, you talked about the importance of your role, and I know that was hard for you, for everyone to know. That was a very private moment for you, but you also embraced it, and you talked about all the people that you represent from being a mother, right? And how hard that is. You talked about coming back after having a child, a C-section, just 4 days later. Being a mother is really, really hard. You also talked about representing Black women and having the opportunity to do something that a lot of Black women haven't had a chance to do just yet, and how you represent them on the biggest playing surface in the history of sports. You also referenced your children. You pointed directly at Capri, and she might have just been 6 months old, but you said, I represent her as well. In your representation, what is it that you want to model for these different groups, these different individuals?
Well, like we can do, like you can do anything. Like you don't not go for your dream because you're afraid of like motherhood. Like you figure, like you figure it out. You have good people around you. You create friendships. You know another mom where you share something. You figure it out and you do it. And I think that there's never good timing. But I was not about to let like I was so career driven. Like if you asked me when I was 30, like, is your dream to have kids or they have by now? Like it wasn't like, oh no, when you're like a driven woman, you're not like me personally. I wasn't planning like, oh, I want to get married, this picket fence, these kids. And then I was like, no, I'm gonna do this, and then I'll fit that in where it can. Like, and I don't know if that's probably selfish, and maybe some women don't think like that. Maybe they're like ultimate goals to be a mom. For me, it's like I love being a mom and it's something I love, but it's like my goal was to like I have goals career wise. And the motherhood, but it's not gonna change my career. So like it wasn't like my like I don't know. But I did put it off for years because for a while I was like, I'm not having a kid and like starting that. Like so I think looking back now as a mom, I wouldn't have done that because I would have probably had one more child. But because I was so driven, I was like, I'm not having kids now. I'm trying to like do something. And then after a while, you get to a point where it's like, okay, well, it's getting late. Like I need to have kids. Like I want to have kids. I want to be a mom. I don't want to like wait and it's too late. But I think it is. But then also, like, I think what's hard for us women too is like most women go through a miscarriage. I'd say like, I don't know, it's like probably 3 in 8 or something. It's a really high percentage. So before I had Capri, I went to like a public miscarriage. So like I had just announced, and it was just embarrassing a little bit. It shouldn't be embarrassing, but it is. I had just announced it like on a Monday on my radio show. I was like, yeah, like I'm so excited. And then it happened like that week. But this is the crazy part. Like women don't talk about that. There's so many things that women go through that is so hush hush that I also tried to speak about things because like I didn't even know women like have miscarriages at such a high rate. So I had one, and everybody else had one around me. I was like, I didn't know that. So we don't even talk about that stuff to help each other. So when I had the miscarriage, I remember they did a story on it and I talked about it. Like, yeah, that happened. I had women like coming up to me on campus, hugging me and crying and saying that same thing happened to me. I read your story. But it's like, I didn't even know that before it happened to me. I just like, this is what happened to me. If this can help a woman, and I talked about it. But it's like, we're so close and like women don't help each other. So it wasn't even ever, I didn't even know it was such a big thing until like afterwards, which is crazy. So, and then there's other stuff, like I think with Black women, there's like the breastfeeding. Like a lot of Black women don't breastfeed. Like a lot of that stuff I wasn't even aware of until after. Because it's like there was a way I was going to do things how I was raised. And I was like, wow, other women like couldn't breastfeed because they didn't have an office. There was so many things. So I helped open like a mommy quarter here. But stuff that I never thought about because when I got pregnant, like I had my office, right? It was just a lot of situations that I didn't know and I could advocate for. That I was like, wow, you went through that. But then I didn't know, like, if there's a woman down the hall, she's in a cubicle, like she couldn't breastfeed. I could shut my door. Like, she can't do that. And then I thought, well, don't they just give you a place to do it? And then some of us were like, no. And it's just like, what? Like, I thought, because I would be the type like, I need to use that thing for a second, but I'm not that way, actually. I would go to the bathroom. But I'm also more open than some people. And if you walked in, I'd be like, sorry, I'm pumping. But a lot of women aren't that comfortable to do that, right? But so some of that's for being an athlete. Like you are probably more comfortable in your skin. You're a better advocate for yourself because you have to speak up for yourself. So I think those things are so I'm like, well, sorry, I had to go walk to the bathroom and stand there and sorry, you guys can't come to the bathroom. Like I just think it's different. You're kind of I think wired a little different, right?
Yeah, I would agree. And I have to say this, like your vulnerability, your transparency in your moments, our vulnerability creates space and insight and helps so many others. So I just want to acknowledge that as well. Absolutely beautiful. Something that some may frown upon are couples coaching. That's something that's very different. You're not just a mommy, but you're also a wife, right? Your husband, Salvo, he's on your staff and he has a wealth of knowledge, over 10 years of coaching experience. But I would love to know, and I think many would love to know this as well, is how is that dynamic? Being a wife out off the court, but also being a wife and a leader, because you're never not a wife, right? But being a leader on the court, how is that dynamic in a space that can get very intense and competitive?
Well, so we're so different. And so I think that really, we make a really good like a really good marriage and partnership because we have different strengths and different weaknesses. And our personalities are so different. But I think the great thing about him, he's really supportive. He's a great dad. He's loving, and he supports me in my space. And like that, for him, I think the miscarriage is harder for him than me. Because for me, it's like I had to be this like strong woman. I didn't want to show him. He was already so sad. I think it was more scary for him than for me because he was like, you need to stay home. Like I remember so I didn't know like after a miscarriage. So my situation was the baby had died. Okay. Like, this is like, I know I'm probably like, people are like TMI, you can always cut this out. But so then I had to go in and I was like, wait, so what do I do? You know, I'm like 3 months pregnant. And like, I didn't know that, like, I thought it just died and like it's small. So I thought, okay, like it probably goes out. But I never thought of the process because women don't talk about it. So they were like, well, you need to go into the hospital. And I was like, okay. So I thought you go into the hospital and it's like you're awake and they probably just like, I don't know, like remove something or scrape something. I thought, like, that's just what I thought. I never like Googled it or anything. So I didn't think it happened to me. But like, it is a surgery. So I remember like on a Thursday in the morning, they were like, stop drinking for the next 6 hours, come in here. And they like rushed me in. The next day I had to coach on a Friday, a Pac-12 game, which I would have never told anybody. I wouldn't have missed the game. I wasn't going to miss the game until my boss had a miscarriage. There's no way, like I would die. So I had to go coach on Friday. Saturday, I had 150 people at my house for an alumni women's basketball event that had been planned for like a year. And I'm playing birthday. Sunday, I had another game to coach. So I remember going in there, getting the procedure done, and I got home like 2 a.m. But I had to like go under anesthesia, which I didn't think that's what happened. Like if you never had a miscarriage, you don't know that. So I had to go under anesthesia, and I guess they remove everything. Because if they didn't do that, I could have been coaching it on the game on Friday and it could happen during the game or on Saturday or Sunday. And the likelihood of it happening the next 3, 4, 5 days was very high because your body's going to get rid of stuff, right? So I was like, wait, I can't, like, that can't happen. Like, if I'm at a game, I start bleeding. And I was like, no. So I had to go like under surgery. I remember the next day in the game, I had like this big diaper on. It's like a Depends, like pad, bleeding for a while. You have to wear that for like a month. And I remember sitting in the game, like obviously you're on pain pills because it was painful. So I remember sitting on pain pills in the game. And I remember saying to myself, what am I doing here? But like, that's the sad part. That's like, what, this is life. Like this happens. But then the competitive coach in me is like, you suck it up. You do what you got to do. You don't let anybody know. And you coach this game. So like, it's like this like thing. And I was going to coach the game. It was very hard. I was in pain, but I wasn't going to let my players know that. And it was funny because like the players knew something. I would have died before I told them. They knew something. We weren't good. They played their hearts out. It's like they knew I was hurt. They knew something was wrong. Didn't know what. And they just played great and won the game. Wow. It was just a moment that I didn't have time to grieve. Then the next day I was busy all day. I remember looking back at pictures. I was like, I don't know how I did that. And like my husband's like dying inside. He's just so sad for the weekend. And then the coach did another game on Sunday. So I didn't even have like, and I wasn't going to not coach or take a week off. Like that's one of those things as a woman, like you're coaching and I don't want anybody to know. I wasn't going to tell my boss. Like when you had a miscarriage, you have a couple of days off. Like, no, you need to win. And so, but those are the things why it's about time when we talk about it because it's our reality. But for me, I'm never going to let that be held against me. Like, oh, she's not going to be able to coach. No, it's like she can handle stuff when stuff happens. And I would have never told anybody it happened. Does that make sense? Like, I would have just like done it, like not talked about it. But then it's like when it comes up, and I think honestly, I was probably having a conversation and everybody found out here because I had publicized it. So I would have never told anybody otherwise. But like all knew after a while, a week later, I wasn't pregnant anymore. So everybody's just like, so it's like it was out there without me wanting it to be out there. So when COVID happened, I was like, I am hiding. Like, I'm not going through that again. Like if it happens, I don't know. So those are things that we have to do, but it's like you just do it. Like I think just you're stronger mentally, so you're more resilient. So then when something happens, like you lose a couple games, or you lose some, like, or you lose a recruit, like it's like you coach the day after a miscarriage, like you coach, like you had a C-section later. It's just like, so it's like nothing. Like the stuff we do is so big, like it's doing something else isn't hard. I'm like, that's not hard. What's hard is coaching after getting a miscarriage the name. You know, like, or other stuff's harder. So it just puts things in perspective, I guess.
And one thing, first off, I just want to acknowledge your bravery, your courage in that situation to still show up at an extremely high level. And I think a lot of women go through these things, and because we don't have the conversations, they don't feel that support. For you, when you did have a moment to deal with all of those emotions, when you did have a moment to kind of come to and kind of revisit those things that you were going through physically, mentally, and emotionally, like how did you take care of yourself? How did you prioritize your mental health and not just your mental strength, but your mental well-being?
I'm a very strong mental person. I think that my moments, honestly, I had a baby. I had a little, I think he would have been like 2 years old. So I had a 2-year-old. I didn't want like to see me sad all the time. He wouldn't have understood, right? And then I had a husband that was already sad. So like I wasn't gonna cry in front of him every day. So I cried a lot by myself. And my mom, you know, and like a couple good, my sister, they were all sad. Like, and so I would talk to them about it. I just didn't understand why that happened because I'm healthy. Like I don't do drugs. Like I don't smoke. I don't drink alcohol. It's just so like I just thought like, God, that's not fair, you know? But then I just thought like it's just everything happens for a reason, and what was going on, that wasn't right. Like the timing wasn't right. So I used to be in God's hands. And honestly, for me, I was more blessed that like the situation happened the way it did because the baby had passed away from a chromosomal problem. So for me, I was happy that happened versus you finding out you have a chromosomal problem and you have to have an abortion. Like I probably would have never gotten an abortion. And then then my health was at risk, or I would have delivered a baby that had passed away. So my mindset was like, under the situation, God made a decision for me. So I was at peace with that. So like it wasn't meant to be. If I have my one child, that's okay. And so I was at peace at the way it happened because I felt like he put me through that and it happened the way it should. You know, so I think for me that was like I guess like the way I grieved was just like, you know, I cried a little bit, but I didn't want to cry in front of my husband. So like sometimes in the bathtub, because that's the way I relax. I would like cry a little bit, but it wasn't like I was crying every day because like I couldn't do anything about it. Like that's out of my control. And like me crying every day, feeling worse was harder. So it's like, it's okay. Like you're going to get through this. Like I just like self-talk to myself and just figure it out. And then I was busy. So you stay busy, which I think is better. You're going to get through everything. It just things take different time. And it's not on your time. It's on God's time. And I can control what I can control and I can do the best. So my mindset's always like, if I do the absolute best I can, and if I'm doing things the right way, I'm being a good person, I'm doing those things, like everything else happens the way it's supposed to around you. So I'm not going to sit there and cry every day about it because if I'm supposed to have another kid, I am, and I had Capri. Everybody said I couldn't have Capri. And she was like my miracle baby. So when I look back at like that other wasn't supposed to be. And then I had a baby at 44. No one gets pregnant at 44. Like I'm 46 with a 2-year-old. Like I was like, it was like a 9% chance.
And you're balling. Let's go.
Just like I just don't I just like it's just the way it's supposed to be, I guess. Things happen for a reason. So yeah, crazy.
And I love how you said you're rooted in your faith and you're also rooted in resilience and perseverance, which has so much to do with everything that you've overcome and accomplished to date. And just you showing up for your children, also showing up for your team at that time. It makes a lot of sense because also during that NCAA run back in 2021, Aari McDonald took the world by storm with her performance. You guys made a phenomenal run, a historic run in program history, but something that she continued to talk about consistently was a relationship that you and her have. You guys still have that relationship to date after talking to her not too long ago. But how does your motherhood and being a mother, how does that impact your ability to connect and coach your players?
Well, I think what a couple of things it does. So parents are crazy. So they figures like parents are crazy. I think when you're a mom though, you kind of understand, you don't understand why they're crazy, but you understand that love. Because like you don't love anything, like you love your husband, but you love your kid differently. So like, you know what I mean? Like you may go, you may hide out in another country for your kid, leave everything. But I think there's this difference. So I think you understand that kind of love, and a lot of parents just love their kids so much. So you understand why people do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
You're more understanding, and things aren't so big or so small. So like what I've learned is from being a mom is like the loss is bad, but then you walk in, someone's like, "Mommy," you're not mad anymore. You're mad inside, but you're not like, if you were by yourself, you'd be like pissed all night, watching all night of film. But like you can do that sometimes as a mom. So I think that makes it, you put things in perspective because it's just a game. And so I think it really grounds you in that. I think it's, if you think about how happy, if you have a pet, how happy your pet is, but the kid is like on another level, and you have to still, you don't want to be mad at the kid when you come home. You hadn't seen the kid all day. You know, you hadn't seen your child, your daughter, your son. So you gotta like take care and be in the moment with your child. So I think that kind of resets you, because then you're not as mad after, right? Instead of being super emotional after, or you lose a game, your kid's at the game, they come up and hug you. I'm proud of you. Like, it's okay, you lost. You're not as mad.
Aww.
Yeah, it's hard to be. Or my son one time would be like, Stanford always beats you. And I'm like, but you have to laugh because they're just kids. So I think
Unfiltered.
yeah, unfiltered. And you just, I think you just understand, and you're more nurturing. I think after a mom, you're more nurturing to your players, because you have, you think like, oh, well, I'd want someone to take care of my kid like that. So I think there's your whole perspective changes, your whole, things like being so high and so low. I'm more like this. I'm not really like this. I mean, I kid a little bit of super stressful times, but people don't know that championship run personally was the hardest year of my life. Like, I look back at pictures, I'm like, whoa, I look like destroyed. I was so exhausted, but like, it was just like, you just do it. Like, it's not what I expected.
Wow.
Like, before we played UConn, I put out like a tree. I don't know if you remember that. Capri's like up half the night. And I remember crying and being like, well, and my husband, so I didn't feel supported at that time. Not because I wasn't supported, because of what I was going through. And we were in trouble. So I remember my husband had Mateo, they had fallen asleep. I didn't have a nanny in the bubble because I couldn't bring anybody to the bubble. So my help was like, everybody's asleep, I'm not gonna wake people up. I remember Capri waking up at like 3 a.m. I nursed her, and then she like spit up. I had the shower. You can't take a bath there. There was no bathtub. I only had a shower. So she's like slippery when I'm showering. I remember being like, I can't believe this. And I remember crying and saying, is she only near the game? I have to go tomorrow. You know, like I remember like crying, and I put some on social media. So I was frustrated. And I'm like, she doesn't know I'm coaching against someone who's won 11 national champions. Like, you know, it was just like, I remember crying and being like, she doesn't even understand. I need to get some rest. And I remember just being so spent that morning. And I remember taking 20 minutes before we shoot. I was like, I just need 20 minutes. I gave like Capri to someone. I was like, I need 20 minutes. I haven't slept. I remember being so overwhelmed and like having to be like, Adia, pull it together. But then we played, like we were prepared. I knew that. And like I had to do some preparation in the afternoon. So I had all these people watching Capri help me. I was pumping all this stuff. Had to get some like game stuff done. And we were super prepared. We went out and played great, but I had them prepared. But I remember crying the night before, like, she doesn't understand. I'm like, how am I going to coach this game? I haven't had any sleep. Like, I remember that. I remember the video.
Like, my goodness, like I have to talk about this because you went out there and you guys beat UConn.
Yeah,
we Final Four.
Played well.
So Punch, you're taken to the national championship. And there was a very unapologetic celebration. And now it all makes sense. But it really makes sense.
That celebration. So I have so much respect for Coach Daly, like Gino. I think, like, I love him. I met him years ago through Sue Bird and all my closest friends. So it had nothing to do with UConn. We went out and played well. They were a better team. Like I think we snuck up on them. Like they were better. They should have. If we would have played them 8 times, they would beat us 7. but we played really well when we were prepared and we were like tough. And I think we just like outplayed them that one game. But I think they overlooked us probably. But like after the game, it had nothing to do with them. It just had everything to do with no one even thought we'd even make it to the Final Four, get alone even go into the championship game. Not one person thought that. It's but us. And we were like, so it was more like, so F everybody in this country that thinks about, because we believe in us. And it was a special moment. That's why I apologize for it. And it was like, it had nothing to do, had nothing to do with media. It was had to do with us. Like, see, we believed in each other. So let's go. But I remember being so exhausted and thinking like, I don't even know. Like, it was just like, that year was hard for me.
Yeah. And to know that you had the night that you had, and you said that was one of the hardest years of your life personally and one of the best years of your life career-wise, it's a testament to what women can really accomplish with perseverance, with resilience, and just that mindset to get it done. And that's something that mothers have. Truly phenomenal. And Coach, for those who feel like they must choose between their career, their families, and their children, what would you say to an aspiring woman who wants to do well in her career, but she feels like that could be hindered, the progression of her career could be hindered in the sports industry because she is a mother?
Well, like, you don't think like that yet. You haven't done it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you go for it, I think that you can't be afraid to fail. Like, you fail all the time. Like, we fail. Like, no one's a perfect mom. No one's a perfect wife. Like, you go for it. Like, you set your goals and you figure it out. And then the thing is, like, what do you have to lose? Not ever trying. You're never going to do it anyway. So why not put your best foot forward, go for it. And then if you don't make it, it's like, you can go to plan B anyways. You can like not do well, go to plan B, because you're not even going to try it if you don't try it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to have the opportunity to do it. So like, don't sell yourself short. Like, I remember I had a 7-month-old baby. This job came up. I wasn't applying for a coaching job. I was like, I'm not ready. Like, and I just had a baby. I remember thinking that as my mindset. One of my mentors was like, Adia, are you crazy? Do you think I was ready when I got this opportunity? Well, she was the administrator. She was one of the first. She was the first in the country, female administrator of her time. Her name's Rocky the Rose, and she was the first one to get football, men's basketball. Like, no woman had that role. And then she had interim AD. So she was like, "Do you think I was ready?" So you're never ready. There's never a great time. So you go for it and you figure it out. You have a little bit more support. Your partner, like my husband, supports me. My husband moved from Italy. I could have went over there and chased his career. He came here to support me. Wow. It's like, I think that you just find really good people around you and you do it. But what are you going to lose from going for it? You go for it. If you fail, like, if you never tried it, you wouldn't have a chance to fail. At least you did everything you could in your power. You set your goals high. You took a chance, just like you would tell your kids to do. Mm-hmm. Your kid, oh, don't do that. Don't go for the varsity team because you might not make it. You might not be tall enough, just like they told Ari. So you told your kid, no, you try your best. You work your butt off. You go do it. And then you don't make it. You go play on JP. Like, it doesn't, you don't lose anything. So you're not afraid to fail. You go for it. You set your limits high and you do your very best. And then at the end of the day, when you can look in the mirror and you can say, I did my best. I had the baby. I tried. I put my heart into it. And if you didn't make it, it probably wasn't meant to be. There's probably something else better that you're going to do. Because if you're supposed to be there and it's right for you, I think everything happens the way it should. So if you're working your butt off hard, you're doing great, and it happens the way it should, you're going to be where you should be. And if not, you're going to be somewhere else. Like, if I'm supposed to be in Arizona, I'll be in Arizona. If not, I'm going to be somewhere else. And it's like, but it's where I'm destined to be. It's what I'm destined to do. I would have never thought I was going to coach. But then something inspired me to try, right? Something was in my head that said, go ahead and try. I would never thought about coaching at 26. And I did it, and I love it. I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. And if there ever comes a day where I'm not loving it, or I can't inspire someone, or I'm not enjoying it, or I can't be my best, I'm going to walk away and do something else where I can give it my best. So I think that you just go for it, and you follow your heart, and you aren't afraid to fail.
Give it your best. Your best is always good enough. Coach, this is our final segment in the show, and we're going to do a little preseason testing and preparing you guys for the NCAA tournament this year. Got to apply some pressure. This is where we go into rapid fire questions. We're going to ask you a series of questions. You get 5 seconds to answer each question. And we're going to give you a 30-second shot clock. You were 30 in Arizona, right?
Yeah, I thought you have 30. I did, yeah.
You're familiar with that number. We're going to give you a 30-second shot clock. That's one possession, 5 seconds for each question. You up for the challenge?
Yep.
All right, let's dive right into it. What's your favorite game day song right now?
Game day song. Well, I don't have game day songs because I listen to kids stuff with my kids.
Okay. Is it Baby Shark?
Yeah, like, my Coco Melon. Like, I don't really listen to, I'm not superstitious like that. Let's say Coco Melon because you have a kid in the car.
Coco Melon. All right. Best basketball memory.
I mean, playing in the national championship, not losing, but being there and playing in the national championship.
A hill you are willing to die on as a coach.
Well, like for me, it's like doing things the right way. Like I'm not going to compromise like winning a championship because I did something the wrong way. So I think just my integrity, who I am, what we do daily, and I'm willing to, if that means not winning and I had to walk away, I'm going to walk away. So I'm going to do things the right way in the way I want to do it.
Advice for your younger self.
Don't be afraid to take chances, but my younger self wouldn't take chances like this.
I love it.
Be confident, be the woman you know you can be, and go out and just like conquer the world.
Who are the women that shaped you into the woman you are today?
My mom is one of them. My mom's name is Patricia. She's from Chicago. She's this little Italian lady from Chicago.
Chi-town?
Yeah, she's very strong, resilient. What she went through, like I think just having me and my siblings, like her, my sister, and just some really strong females around me throughout my career.
What's one thing your mother instilled in you?
Maybe you fall on your face to get back up. So I didn't, it wasn't coddling. If I failed, my mom didn't sit there and cry. The mom would say, you get back up, you hold your head up high, you fix your crown, and you keep it moving. Like she always was like that. And that's why I think I'm like that.
Beautiful. Last question. Best lesson you learned as a mother?
That you don't need to measure yourself to anyone else. People do things differently. There isn't a right way to be a mom. You don't need to have mommy guilt. Like you do your best and you figure it out. And parenting looks different to different people, and you raise your kids the best way you know how to, but you also learn how to be great. And I think what I've also learned as a mom is it's quality time, it's not quantity. So like some moms can stay home all day, they still don't spend time with their kids. So you make time and you find time that's quality time where you give your kids and maybe 10 minutes a day of undivided one-on-one attention, but you find that, and it's very important. And so you make your time.
That is sound advice for women in careers. Phenomenal conversation. Coach, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's fun.
Hey, About Time listeners. I'm Vanessa Fuchs, CEO of We Coach. With the start of the new academic year, we invite you to check out our year-round leadership programs supporting women coaches in all sports and levels. Our transformational programs include the NCAA Women Coaches Academy, our Youth and High School Women Coaches Academy, regional workshops, monthly video chats, our mentor program, We Amplify, supporting women coaches of color, Catch a Vision, a workshop for aspiring women coaches, and more. Today's podcast guest, Coach Adia Barnes, may even be interested in a new program we'll soon launch, We Connect Women Coaches, coach-led and coach-inspired small group huddles that will include a huddle dedicated to moms who coach. To learn more, check out our website, wecoachsports.org.
Well, that's our show. Thank you for listening. If you would like to hear more episodes like this, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and to our YouTube channel. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.